She laughed and said, "You're nothing," and the whole table went quiet. Then everyone laughed. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just sat there and let them finish, because one sentence I was about to say was going to change the mood in that room forever. My name is Ethan Cole, and I'm 32 years old. I work in a field most people don't understand, doing things I legally can't talk about in detail. But that night at dinner with my girlfriend's family, none of that mattered yet. What mattered was that I was about to be humiliated. Let me back up. I'd been dating Rebecca for 8 months. She was beautiful, ambitious, from a wealthy family in Connecticut. Old money. The kind where the grandfather's portrait hangs in the country club and everyone knows their last name. Our relationship had been good. Or so I thought. She knew what I did for work, sort of. I'd told her I worked in government contracting, which was technically true. But I'd kept the details vague because, well, I had to. "You're so mysterious about your job," she'd say, running her fingers through my hair. "It's kind of sexy." I'd smile and change the subject. But 8 months in, she wanted me to meet her family. Her parents. Her 2 older brothers. Her grandmother. The whole crew. "They're going to love you," she promised. "Just be yourself." Famous last words. The dinner was at their estate. Yes, estate. 15-acre property. The house looked like something from a movie. Staff serving drinks. A dining room with a table that could seat 20. I showed up in my best suit, holding flowers for her mother, trying to play the part of the acceptable boyfriend. Rebecca's father, Richard, was a hedge fund manager. Her mother, Caroline, did philanthropy, which seemed to mean attending charity galas. Her brothers, Chase and Brandon, both worked in finance. Everyone was polished. Perfect. The kind of people who summer in the Hamptons and winter in Aspen. And then there was me. Regular background. State school education. Living in a modest apartment in DC. I could feel them sizing me up the moment I walked in. The first hour was fine. Polite small talk. Questions about where I grew up, where I went to school, how I met Rebecca. I answered honestly but carefully. Kept things surface level. Didn't volunteer too much. Then we sat down for dinner. That's when things started to shift. "So, Ethan," Richard said, swirling his wine. "Rebecca tells us you work for the government. What department?" "I work on contract basis," I said. "Different projects, different agencies. It varies." "Sounds vague," Chase said with a smirk. "What do you actually do?" "I handle security consulting. Risk assessment. That sort of thing." Rebecca squeezed my hand under the table, encouraging me. "Security consulting," Brandon repeated. "So like a security guard?" "Not exactly." "But you don't have a company," Richard pressed. "You said you're on contract. So you're basically a freelancer." "In a sense, yes." Caroline, Rebecca's mother, smiled tightly. "How entrepreneurial." The tone was clear. Freelancer meant unstable. Contract work meant no real career. Security consulting meant nothing impressive. "What's your education background?" Richard asked. "State University. Computer Science and International Relations double major." "State school," Chase said. "Which one?" I told them. Brandon actually laughed. "Never heard of it." Rebecca jumped in. "Ethan's brilliant. He got recruited right out of college." "Recruited by whom?" Richard interrupted. This was the tricky part. I couldn't tell them by whom. It was classified. "A government contractor," I said. "I signed NDAs. I can't discuss the specifics." "NDAs," Brandon said, making air quotes. "Sounds like a convenient excuse." "It's not an excuse," Rebecca said defensively. "He literally can't talk about it. It's classified." Chase laughed. "Classified. Right. Like James Bond Classified." "Something like that," I said evenly. The whole table erupted in laughter. "Oh, this is rich," Chase said. "Rebecca's dating a secret agent." I didn't say that. "But you can't tell us what you do because it's classified," Caroline said with a condescending smile. "How very mysterious." I could see where this was going. They didn't believe me. They thought I was either lying about my job or wildly exaggerating something mundane. So what do you make? Richard asked bluntly. Financially. Dad. Rebecca protested. It's a fair question. If he's going to be serious with you, we should know if he can support you. I support myself, Rebecca snapped. For now, Caroline said. But eventually you'll want a family. Children. You can't raise children on a government contractor's salary. You don't know what he makes, Rebecca argued. Then let him tell us, Richard said, looking at me. What's your annual income, Ethan? This was a trap. If I told them the real number, they wouldn't believe me. If I lowballed it, they'd dismiss me as beneath their daughter. I do fine, I said carefully. That's not an answer, Chase said. I'm comfortable. Comfortable, Brandon repeated. So, like, 60,000? 70. The number was so far off it was almost funny. Something like that, I said, not correcting him. Because here's the thing. I actually made significantly more than anyone at that table except maybe Richard. But I couldn't tell them that without explaining why, which I couldn't do. So I let them think I was broke. Rebecca was getting frustrated. This is inappropriate. You're interrogating him. We are getting to know him, Caroline said. And frankly, dear, we are concerned. You're 29 years old. You should be thinking about your future. About marriage. About the kind of life you want. I am thinking about it. And is this the kind of man who can provide that life? Richard asked, gesturing at me like I wasn't sitting right there. Money isn't everything, Rebecca said, but her voice was weak. It's not everything, Caroline agreed. But it's something. And stability matters. Career trajectory matters. Ethan has a career. Does he? Chase interrupted. Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like he bounces around on short-term contracts doing vague security work that he can't explain. That's not fair, Rebecca said. It's accurate, Brandon added. No offense, man, but you seem like a nice guy who's in over his head with our sister. Way over his head, Chase agreed. I still hadn't said anything. Just sat there, cutting my steak, letting them talk. Ethan, Richard said, his tone almost pitying. I'm going to be direct with you. You seem like a decent person. But Rebecca comes from a certain background. She has expectations. Standards. And I'm not sure you can meet them. Dad, stop, Rebecca said. I'm being honest. Better now than after wasted years. Rebecca's grandmother, who'd been silent this whole time, suddenly spoke up. What the boy is trying to say, Rebecca dear, is that you can do better. The words hung in the air. Rebecca's face went red. Grandma, that's horrible. It's practical, the old woman said. You're beautiful, educated, from a good family. Why settle for someone who can't even explain what he does for a living? He's explained. Vaguely, Caroline interrupted. He's been vague about everything. His job, his income, his plans. That's not the foundation for a marriage. We are not getting married tomorrow, Rebecca protested. But you're thinking about it, Richard said. I can tell. And we are telling you, as your family, to think carefully. About what? About whether this man, Richard gestured at me again, is really the one you want to build a life with. Rebecca looked at me, her eyes pleading for me to defend myself, to say something, to fight back. But I just took another bite of steak and stayed quiet. Because I was waiting. Ethan, Rebecca said softly. Say something. What would you like me to say? Tell them about your work. Tell them it's important. I can't. Why not? Because it's classified. Chase burst out laughing. He really committed to this bit, I'll give him that. Brandon joined in. The mysterious government contractor who can't talk about his very important classified work. Even Caroline was smiling now, amused by what she clearly thought was a desperate attempt to seem impressive. Richard shook his head. Son, you don't have to pretend with us. We are not judging you for having a modest career. We are just trying to help Rebecca see reality. What reality? Rebecca asked. That you're dating someone who's not in your league, Chase said bluntly. Rebecca's face crumpled. She looked at me, then at her family. How can you all be so cruel? We are not being cruel, Caroline said. We are being honest. Better she hears it from us than realizes it herself in 5 years when she's tied to a man who can't provide the life she deserves. I love him, Rebecca said, and her voice cracked. The table went completely silent. Then Rebecca's grandmother laughed. Actually laughed. Love. How sweet. And how irrelevant. It's not irrelevant, Rebecca insisted. It is when you can't pay your bills, Richard said. Love doesn't keep the lights on. He's not poor. He's not wealthy either, Chase said. He's comfortable. His word, not mine. And comfortable doesn't cut it for this family. Rebecca turned to me, tears in her eyes. Tell them you're successful. Tell them about your work. I can't, I said again. Why not? Because they won't believe me anyway. And that's when it happened. Rebecca snapped. She stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. Fine. You want to know what he does? You want to know why he can't talk about it? Rebecca, I started, but she cut me off. He works in cybersecurity for the Department of Defense. He's been recruited by multiple intelligence agencies. He has a security clearance so high that most government employees will never reach it. He can't talk about his work because it's literally illegal for him to do so. The table went quiet again. Then Chase started laughing. Oh, this is even better. Now he's a spy. I didn't say spy, Rebecca protested. But that's what you're implying, Brandon said. That your boring boyfriend is secretly some kind of intelligence operative. I'm not implying anything. I'm telling you the truth. Prove it, Richard said. He can't, Rebecca said. That's the whole point. It's classified. How convenient, Caroline said dryly. Rebecca looked at me desperately. Ethan, please. Say something. I put down my fork and met her eyes. They don't want the truth. They want a reason to look down on me. That's not true, Caroline started. It is true, I said calmly. You've already decided who I am. What I'm worth. Nothing I say will change that. Try us, Richard challenged. I looked around the table. At these people who'd spent the last hour systematically dismantling me. Making me feel small. Trying to convince Rebecca I wasn't good enough. And I made a decision. All right, I said. You want to know what I do? Please, Chase said mockingly. Enlighten us. I pulled out my phone, opened my work email, pulled up a message I'd received that afternoon. What are you doing? Rebecca asked. Giving them what they want. I showed them the email. It was from a government domain. The subject line read, Classified, Damascus Operation Debrief Required. Chase leaned forward, squinting. That doesn't prove anything. Keep reading, I said. The email detailed a request for me to report to a secure facility in Virginia for a debriefing on an operation I'd consulted on. It mentioned specific clearance levels. Specific protocols. Brandon's smirk was fading. This could be fake. Call the number, I said. It's in my contacts. Defense Intelligence Agency. Ask for Director Morrison. Tell him Ethan Cole sent you. No one moved. You won't call, I said. Because you're starting to realize you might be wrong. Richard cleared his throat. Even if this is real, it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean what? I interrupted. That I'm successful? That I have an important career? That I'm not some nobody your daughter is slumming with? The room was dead silent now. I work in threat analysis, I said evenly. I consult on cyberterrorism, state-sponsored hacking, and infrastructure vulnerabilities. I've worked with the NSA, CIA, and DHS. I can't tell you details because doing so would violate federal law and potentially endanger national security. Caroline's expression had changed. She wasn't smiling anymore. My security clearance is TSESCI, I continued. Top secret with sensitive compartmented information access. Do you know what I had to go through to get that? Background checks going back to childhood. Interviews with every person I've ever known. Polygraph tests. Financial audits. Chase was no longer laughing. You asked about my income, I said, looking at Richard. I make $400,000 a year. Base. not including bonuses or hazard pay for certain assignments. Rebecca's eyes went wide. What? I own my apartment outright. Paid cash. I have no debt. My investment portfolio is managed by Fidelity. I could show you the statements, but I suspect you'll believe me now. Brandon had gone pale. The reason I don't talk about my work isn't because it's embarrassing, I said. It's because it's classified. The reason I seem vague is because vagueness is required. The reason I didn't defend myself tonight is because I don't need to prove myself to people who've already decided I'm beneath them. I stood up, placing my napkin on the table. Rebecca, I said gently, I need to talk to you outside. She stood immediately, following me out of the dining room and onto the terrace. Behind us, the family sat in stunned silence. On the terrace, Rebecca grabbed my arm. Ethan, I'm so sorry. I had no idea they would. I know. And you make $400,000. Yes. Why didn't you tell me? Because it doesn't matter. Or it shouldn't matter. She looked confused. What do you mean? I mean, I wanted you to love me for who I am, not what I make. I wanted your family to judge me on my character, not my bank account. They were horrible to you. They were. And you let them. She flinched. That's not fair. I defended you. You did. But only after they'd already torn me apart. And when they asked me to prove myself, you joined in. You wanted me to show them I was good enough. Because I knew you were. But I shouldn't have to prove it. Not to them. And not to you. Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. What are you saying? I'm saying I don't think this is going to work. Because of one bad dinner. Because of what that dinner revealed. Your family will never accept me. And you'll always feel caught between us. That's not a foundation for a relationship. But I love you, she said. I know. And I care about you. But love isn't enough when your family thinks I'm nothing. They don't think that anymore. They think differently now because of my salary. Not because of who I am. Do you understand the difference? She was crying openly now. Please don't do this. I'm sorry, I said. I really am. I walked back inside, past the dining room where her family sat in uncomfortable silence, past Richard who wouldn't meet my eyes, past Caroline who looked embarrassed, past Chase and Brandon who suddenly seemed very interested in their plates. I grabbed my coat from the front hall and left. Rebecca didn't follow me out. The drive back to DC was quiet. I felt lighter somehow, like I'd been carrying something heavy and finally set it down. My phone buzzed. Multiple texts from Rebecca. Please call me. We can work this out. My family is mortified. They want to apologize. I didn't respond. The next morning, I woke up to a missed call from an unknown number. Then a voicemail. Mr. Cole, this is Richard Bennett, Rebecca's father. I wanted to apologize for last night. My behavior was inappropriate. I made assumptions that were unfair and insulting. I'd like to speak with you, if you're willing. Please call me back. I deleted the voicemail. An hour later, Rebecca showed up at my apartment. I answered the door but didn't invite her in. My whole family is mortified, she said. They can't stop apologizing. They want to see you again, to make it right. Make what right? The fact that they judged me? Or the fact that they were wrong? Both. All of it. Ethan, please. Give us another chance. Rebecca, they were cruel to me when they thought I was nobody. Now they're apologetic because they found out I'm somebody. That's not growth. That's just social calculation. That's not fair. It's absolutely fair. Your grandmother called me nothing. Your brothers mocked me. Your parents treated me like I was lucky to breathe the same air as your family. And you sat there and let it happen until you couldn't take it anymore. I defended you. After they'd already humiliated me. And only because you were embarrassed, not because you were outraged. She didn't have an answer for that. I need you to understand something, I said. The reason I didn't tell your family what I do, what I make, who I work for, it's because those things don't define me. I wanted to see if they could respect me as a person, not as a paycheck. And they couldn't, Rebecca said quietly.
No.
They couldn't. But now they do. Now they respect my salary. That's not the same thing. Rebecca looked at me with tears streaming down her face. So this is it? We are over. Yeah, I said. We are. Because of one bad dinner. Because your family showed me exactly what they value. And you showed me that you value their opinion more than you value me. That's not true. You asked me to prove myself to them. That's exactly what it means. She stood there on my doorstep, crying, trying to find words that would fix this. But some things can't be fixed. Goodbye, Rebecca, I said, and closed the door. I heard her crying on the other side for a few minutes. Then footsteps. Then silence. That was 3 months ago. I haven't spoken to her since. I heard through a mutual friend that her family was devastated by how they treated me. That Richard tried to call several more times. That Caroline wrote me a letter I never opened. That Rebecca told everyone I was the one who got away. Maybe I was. Or maybe I was the one who had the self-respect to walk away. A few weeks ago, I was at a coffee shop in Georgetown when a woman approached me. Ethan Cole. I looked up. I didn't recognize her. I'm Amanda, Chase Bennett's fiancée, Rebecca's soon-to-be sister-in-law. Great. Hi, I said cautiously. I just wanted to say, I heard what happened at that dinner, and I think you handled it with more grace than anyone I've ever seen. Thanks. Chase feels terrible. He's told me the story a dozen times, always ending with how badly he misjudged you. Good for him. He wanted me to tell you, if I ever ran into you, that he's sorry. Okay. Amanda hesitated. Rebecca still talks about you. She says she made the biggest mistake of her life. She didn't make a mistake, I said. She made a choice. She chose her family's opinion over her own judgment. That's not a mistake. That's a decision. Amanda nodded slowly. You're right. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you ever regret walking away? I mean, she really did love you. I don't regret it, I said. I regret that I wasted 8 months on someone who needed her family's permission to love me. Amanda smiled sadly. That's fair. She left after that, and I went back to my coffee. Here's what I learned from that night at Rebecca's family dinner. People will judge you. They will make assumptions based on superficial things. They will decide you're not good enough before they know anything real about you. And when you prove them wrong, they won't apologize for judging you. They'll just recalculate your value based on new information. That's not respect. That's social math. Real respect doesn't require a resume. Real love doesn't need a salary to justify itself. The moment Rebecca's family called me nothing, they revealed everything I needed to know. Not about me. About them. And about Rebecca, who sat there and let it happen. I could have said something sooner. Could have pulled out my credentials immediately. Could have shown them my income and my clearance level and made them choke on their assumptions. But I wanted to see how far they'd go. And they went all the way. So when I finally spoke, when I finally said the one sentence that changed the mood in that room forever, I make $400,000 a year. It wasn't to prove I was worthy. It was to prove they weren't. Because anyone who needs a number to respect you isn't worth impressing. And any family that treats people like nothing based on assumptions isn't a family I want to join. Rebecca called me the one who got away. But she's wrong. I'm the one who walked away. And that's a very different thing. She laughed and said, "You're nothing," and I let her finish. Because I knew something she didn't. I am something. And I don't need her family's approval to prove it.